Well, still in Asheville, and today we have Christy Schrum of ISA, and that has something to do with insurance. So help me out with your business name and what you do.
Okay, well, first, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. ISA stands for Insurance Service of Asheville. So we protect people. We're a full service independent agency. So we do all commercial, personal lines, benefits, anything that can be insured, we can insure it.
And how long have you been doing this?
15 years.
And is your life after the hurricane super chaotic? Are you losing your mind? Do you have it all together?
Oh, obviously, we all have it all together. No, not at all. I think we are more together than we should be, and we have a good community, strong business partners, good leadership, and hope for the future. So,
How many people work in your office area? Do you own the business?
so I'm a partner. And Insurance Service of Asheville is actually part of a much larger group. It's called Legacy Risk Solutions. So together we have very exciting to celebrate as a 4-1. We will have 60 locations, 600 staff.
Wow.
Our locations are spread all over the Southeast, but we write and we're licensed in every state.
In your position, how do you handle this disaster? What happens behind the scenes?
Behind the scenes, so I think at work and for the clients and for my team, I'm really strong and bright and uplifting. And then I think, you go home at night and you're just exhausted. And
Cry.
You cry. You cry. You do. I even cried last night looking at the fires because I know what we have just overcome, and to see everybody hurting again, it's emotional. I love Western North Carolina.
So do people call in? Did you have homes that were, a complete loss? How do you handle the number of claims and things that happen after this kind of disaster?
We were extremely fortunate, again, to mention Legacy Risk Solutions, our partners. I think we're the only local agent that that were able to service nonstop rolling, because our partners, we were able to forward all our phones to them. They could access our emails. As you guys know, nobody up here had any communication services for probably 72 hours after it hit. But as soon as our clients could call, somebody on our team could answer the phone and help. It wasn't our Asheville branch, but we're fortunate to have all those partners.
And so you're talking about partners, and tell us about Steve and Donna Frelick and Yonder and how you're integrated with the luxury vacation rental platform.
Gosh, I don't even know if there's enough wonderful adjectives to explain Steve and Donna, and I know you guys are close to them too, so you probably feel the same way. Steve and Donna and I met in 2012, and we met just in networking circles, and I was introduced to them, and I started doing business with them, and we realized we just really bonded over traditional customer service and care. And, we have a lot of conversations about how it's just so hard to find these days.
Very true.
That's how we bonded, and we've just formed this amazing partnership together, and I've been fortunate to represent them for a very long time, over a decade now. So
in representing them over a decade now, what kind of stories do you have behind the scenes for some stuff that they've been through?
honestly, just rapid growth and success. They're really smart at what they do. They spend a lot of time with their agent, and they give time to it and care about coverages and stuff. So from a claims standpoint, I can't think of any crazy claims for them. I mean, of course, there's here and there stuff. But as far as their journey and, being a part of their lives is just to watch them grow and expand and move into new territories and expand their team, and which is their family. And they're amazing. So I guess just the growth, and they're always starting something new and going somewhere else. And I get a call, hey, can we go in this state? Can we go in that state? And absolutely. Let's do it.
In your world, insurance and the losses that you just talked about. So you've got Helene here locally, you've got the wildfires here locally, and all of these things that are now becoming ever present in the news of just massive losses. I'm in banking, mortgage banking, real estate, and qualifying individuals for the backstory of how you qualify for financing. And now insurance is actually becoming not a thing you do on the last day before you want to close. It's a really big deal as it relates to how you're going to qualify to get your home insured. What kind of differences have you noticed over the last 4 or 5 years with just the complexities to issue a policy?
Well, that's a great question. So, carrier restrictions. So, whether it's here or across the country, the natural disasters are becoming more frequent and more expensive. I think they just put the price tag for us so far in Helene at $78.8 billion. Wow. That's a lot of money. And there's a lot of rebuilding.
And that's just you?
Oh, no, not my agency. No, that's Western North Carolina and Helene.
Okay.
For here. So all the agencies and carriers get to share in that loss. So carrier restrictions, you're going to have less coverages. You're going to have less coverage options. Rates are increasing because carriers can't afford to pay $78.8 billion if they're not recouping those funds somehow. And then as far as the lending goes, it's going to be weird because now, especially here, one thing with the rebuilding is what are the new codes going to be? What are the new requirements going to be for flood mapping, for flood zones? Where can you even build back? And if so, there's a lot of debate still going on about that. I know they're getting to the final stages, but that's kind of harboring some of our getting back on track is, who can go where and how do they have to rebuild? So it's full circle.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. If you could even rebuild your own home in an area that wasn't a flood zone that now might be a flood zone. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see a lot of exclusions with roofs in my neck of the woods where that's now like kind of a big deal. Do you see that here?
Wind hail exclusions are big. So we're kind of cousins of Florida, because Florida loves to bounce back and forth between North Carolina and Florida. So Florida, it's a lot of excluded wind and hail. Here, it's carrier restrictions, and it's frustrating because, some won't insure you if your roof's older than 10 years or 15 years. But we all know when you invest and pay for a new roof, it's pretty expensive and it's 50-year shingles. So you're not going to be able to get insurance. You need to start budgeting and planning to change that roof at least once every 15 years.
Wow. So then let's ask a question about that. You're talking about shingles. What if there's a metal roof?
Metal roof, they'll give you a little more leeway, but I guess so. Here's why. Carriers are just really tired of replacing roofs. And, you guys are entrepreneurs and you deal with investment and money and how do you get your money back? What's your ROI? With all these storms, with all this wind, with all these natural disasters, an older roof is going to wear. In a windstorm, a roof that's 15 years old is going to lose shingles and have damage before a brand new roof just because it ages. So they're just done. They just can't afford it. They're done replacing roofs. And the best way they know to do that is to restrict, who they'll cover and minimize their risk.
This might be controversial to even bring this up, but I've seen a lot of roofing companies that go specifically after, do you have wind and hail damage? And we'll help you with your roof.
So that's horrible. So last May in Barnardsville, I was fortunate. We had a 3-inch in diameter hailstorm. It broke all kinds of records. I don't know if you've ever seen, it's softball size hail. Wow. And it came out of nowhere. It just got black really quick. The wind started blowing. I was actually on my way to walk my dogs. Open the door, huge clap of thunder. Of course, they both retreat and are like, no. And then all of a sudden it sounded like there were elephants running on my roof. I was like, what in the world is going on? So I looked out back and I started videoing it. Because it was 3-inch diameter softball size hail. It just put holes through roofs, soffits. If you want to see some interesting footage, you should Google it. It was shattering sunroofs, smashing cars. So destroyed my roof, all my gutters and everything. And now Monday, we're supposed to have another similar event all through Western North Carolina, potentially from the storms. But it's, those storms and everything are so much more frequent. And even though it's a catastrophic loss, it's still these carriers are paying out tons and tons and tons of money constantly. Look at the fires in California. Look at how do you pay for that?
I've wondered that frequently. How do the insurance companies stay in business? How do you even collect a paycheck? How does that math move behind the scenes other than it's just sheer numbers, right? Houses with insurance, is that it?
Oh, you're asking the insurance lady right there.
Well, we're all in a pool of risk, and I don't know if you know the interesting story of how insurance started, but it was the Great Fire in London where all the property went, but nobody could afford to do it. So some very smart business people got together and said, to prevent this, if we put everybody in a pool, everybody pays a little bit of money, then we can afford these disasters. But when the disasters continue to grow and spread, they have actuaries that do the math. So there's these brilliant people that just sit, calculate, process data all day to say, if we're going to cover this risk here, what's the likelihood, what's the money from past experience, and then they know what premiums they have to charge. But it'll be more and more.
Buying, selling, or investing. We are the Creative Ones. Visit us at creativeones.com. So after this hailstorm that you had in your neighborhood, and I'm asking about these companies that come around and actually kind of specifically, historically look at where a hail incidents happen. And it doesn't necessarily even mean softball size. I just mean they know that in that neighborhood there was hail.
The only word I could use to describe it is predatory in most circumstances. And it's amazing how quick they get there, because it was maybe an hour after the storm and it cleared up, and it was even because you couldn't walk outside. I mean, you could easily get knocked unconscious, but it was within an hour after the storm that I could see them going in all my neighbors' driveway. I live in rural Barnardsville, a beautiful community, and I have a lot of elderly neighbors, and as much as I'm protective over them, they're the same with me. So I was calling them. I was like, I saw that truck. Don't you dare. Don't, just avoid it like the plague.
And so they come in and they try and, help the homeowner, air quotes, help the homeowner file an insurance claim.
Well, and they do it then. And I don't know if everybody's bad. I can't say that.
I'm sure everyone is not bad.
But they, it's when they can come in and say, how about, the storm just hit you. You can pay. Why don't you pay me a consultation fee? I'll do an inspection. Because these people are in a panic, they're not thinking normally. And everybody knows that anybody will happily come and give you a free roof estimate so they can take your money down the road. But yeah, it's just a scheme.
The problem is for the homeowner, they've paid for an insurance policy, so they want their roof covered if it's within the guidelines. And so, of course, the homeowner wants the new roof. But then us all as a whole, if people are, charging double the cost of what the roof really is because they know the insurance company is going to pay it, then that's the predatory part about the roofing company, because they do upcharge. And I've seen it time and time again. In my industry, it's frustrating. And I know that overall what it does is it costs us more money in premiums. And now these roof exclusions that are happening if it's more than 10 years old. So it's different. And I started my career 23 years ago, and it's very different than what it was, along with a lot of other things. But insurance for our clients in the real estate world is, it can be frustrating. It's something they don't understand. Do you go with a higher deductible or a lower deductible? What coverage do you have? And more importantly, you mentioned off camera, what don't you have?
Exactly. To your earlier point, being an agent, it's frustrating too, because when these people are going on somebody's roof and saying you need a new roof, but they really don't, because guess what? Adjusters have inspectors and everything too. Then, we're dealing with an angry client that thinks someone's trying to pull a fast one on them, when in fact, the storm hit. Fortunately for you, you don't need one, but just this contractor wants your money.
Mm-hmm.
So that can cause other issues. Understanding what you don't have is just as important as understanding what you do. And there's some things you just can't cover, but that's why you also need to understand it, because if you can budget for it and plan for it, I've watched a lot of your shows and I know you love planning, and depending on other people, trust other people and allow them to advise you. And then you won't be caught so off guard.
So let's talk about that. So I've been hearing a roof consultation from a contractor that's showing up same day, next day, the weekend of a storm. And one of the things that I just mentioned earlier, being in the real estate game, the money game associated with real estate for so long, insurance is a big deal, and you don't know what you don't know. The piece about insurance that I've often admired about some of my referral partners being close in the way that they consult with other clients is peeling back the layers of the onion. Can you tell the listeners today, you talked about things in a policy that you may not know that you actually don't have. Tell us a little bit about what you will do when you sit down with folks and why that's important. Yes, your premium's going to go up, but
it'll be very similar to what you do, Kate. I think when you're talking to a client for us, it's important to say, okay, what are we dealing with? What are your goals? Because some clients are more concerned about liability piece. Some clients want to protect their financial assets. Some clients are just on a budget, and they can tell you that up front. It's about, what business are you in? Everything's different. So let's use real estate and short-term vacation rentals. That seems like a good popular topic here. So
bravo, Chris.
So whether it's Helene or because Helene will come and go, the fires will come and go, but we have a plethora of vacation rentals in our area. A lot of people have a lot of money invested here, and they could not operate for 3 months in peak season, which is a huge hit for any business. So one of the biggest things they didn't have were utility services endorsements, and people don't understand what business income insurance is and what triggers it and when it responds. So those are the types of things we would go into deep detail, because people just see a word in a policy and they're like, oh, I'm covered for everything. And, it's like general liability. Everybody thinks that generally covers everything, but nothing is more further from the truth. So that's what I would discuss. You have to look at each individual business. It's got its own pieces that it needs, its own special exposures, and then you just have to go through them. As an agent, it's difficult because people don't like insurance. I mean, we're right up there with dentists, divorce attorneys, the IRS, where you have to pay for something you hope you never have to use. And I can't hand you something shiny and pretty that you're spending this money on. It's this intangible,
It's a necessary evil.
It's a necessary evil. And people are busy. So it's just the worst thing. The worst mistake I see with clients is, I'm too busy for you, just handle it, or they're not responsive. They don't make time for annual reviews. They get bored. Sometimes we're talking, and I get it. We're insurance nerds. It's not the sexiest topic, and it eventually goes to wah, wah, wah. But you have to spend time with your agent, and you have to listen, take their phone calls, respond to their emails. And if you're not getting the attention you need, ask them, the last thing anybody can do is assume, that you've got what you want, and money is an issue. Inflation is an issue. Premiums are going up. A lot of people just want to save money, and I get it, but you get what you pay for. Like if you're telling your agent you want the least amount of coverage and the lowest premium possible, you're probably missing 80% of what you really need.
You're exposed.
Yeah.
We need a review now. I'm guilty of many of your clients, and I personally have done the same thing. I've ignored that leg because I'm busy doing all the other things. And you're right, it's just another thing I don't want to do, like going to the dentist, but you've got to make time to do it.
A distinctive approach to passive income with luxury vacation rentals.
For more information, check out our website, quinvestors.com. All right, the gutsy move. We've discussed a lot about insurance. I have a personal gutsy move that I've shared on previous episodes. And I know you want to talk a little bit about, Asheville, and also something personal that was pretty gutsy.
Thank you. So I grew up in Smith Mountain Lake, Virginia. I lived in Boone for some time. I am a lover of the Blue Ridge Mountains. I did move to Georgia briefly. My ex-husband was military, And unfortunately, our marriage kind of didn't work out in a sudden instant. So I had this opportunity to start my life over and go in a new direction. And it was, where do I want to go? Who do I want to be? And where do I want my son and I to start our new life? And it was...
How old were you when that happened?
Are we talking age? I thought we didn't do that. How old was I? I think I was about 35.
Yeah.
And my son was 3, almost 4.
2 years ago.
Yeah, 2 years ago. Exactly.
I have this
hit or
thing
miss.
about women, and somewhere around, my theory is somewhere around the age of 30, we really figure out who we are.
You know, as I mentioned, I kind of binge watched your show because I fell in love with it. But the gentleman from Cast Iron,
Yeah.
and he was talking about,
Fine.
yeah, and he was talking about how when you're be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I love his, it sounds so cliche, but for every door that closes, a new one opens. And I'm so grateful for that, because I think if you get stuck or too comfortable, you can't grow and you can't change, and you could miss out on so much. So the opportunity for me and my son to come to Asheville, start our life over, was amazing. It was terrifying. That's how I fell into insurance. I'm sure anybody you talk to, most people don't, grow up and say, one day when I grow up, I want to be in insurance. We all kind of fall into it. I was in real estate, and when I had to move suddenly, I was like, okay, I need a good job where I can work as hard as I can work. The sky's the limit. There's no barriers or restrictions. And that's how I ended up in insurance.
I think that big differentiator between real estate and insurance, where we do have a lot of parallels, and it's sales, and it's service, and it's knowledge of your product. But insurance has that ability to have the residual income that real estate does not offer.
Right.
So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, so it was kind of easy to go in that direction. And at the time, I'll never forget my first job interview with an agency up here, not where I'm currently at. I was sitting down there like, yeah, we'll pay you $12.50 an hour. And I was like, excuse me, you're going to do what? And they said, well, everybody wants to live in Asheville, but so we can pay whatever we want. I was like, whoa. So next. But it's, that was kind of a slap in the face.
So, Christy, your son, David, he admires his mother. He's going to Appalachian State. He says, Mom, I think I might want to do what you do.
So I wanted to, take him to a psychiatrist and have an evaluation done. That was the first thought. But no, I think I have a really good job that offered me flexibility with him as a single mom, to where, I could be at events and stuff. I think he saw me grow from us starting over to being more stable and successful. So I think that's appealing to him.
But you have CEO after your name.
I do. And that's, so he tells me he's proud of me all the time.
That's
like
awesome.
when something cool happens, he's like, way to go, Mom. So I think that's, it's helpful. He loves that. He asks me what I like about my job. And I'm like, I love that there's no monotony. As far as being an entrepreneurial spirit, every time I write a new client, or every time we partner with a new agency and grow through merger and acquisition, every day is different. Every day exposures change. So for us, it's kind of like we're starting a new business every single day. And if we don't do that, then we're dying. So he loves that I'm never bored. He has no desire to just sit in an office all day, which I get to go out and about a bit. After COVID, I don't want to tell him this. I just want him to follow a good career path. So I don't think it's really lying. It's just not telling him the whole truth. But you are in an office a bit. But
Lying by omission. That's what they say. So you have this history of years in the insurance business. And what I want to know is like some crazy insurance claim story. When you sit down with a girlfriend at lunch, you're like, you are not going to believe this one.
I have one of those, and it wasn't even just a girlfriend at lunch, and it's something that happened to me and a client, and it's something that I even got to do that with an adjuster. Like, I had to call and talk to the adjuster, and he said, I'm sorry, what? And the supervisor adjuster for the carrier is the one who wanted to come and see it because it was just so hard to believe. Have you ever heard of a turkey vulture?
Yes.
So they ate my truck. and they ate a client's house. So I was at Norris Lake in Tennessee. It's a hot summer day, and apparently they plastic and windshield wipers and the bed cover that has the rubber in between. Apparently, rubber and vinyl are like cracked to them. So when it heats up, it just makes them crazy. And we were out on the boat, and I came back, and there were probably 30 of them on my truck. And so I'm like, no. And I run after them, and they are evil. They look like but they're turkey vultures, but they're not friendly. And of course, they're bucking up to me like, one of you, 30 of us, bring it. I've got a water hose. But when it was said and done, they had eaten the rubber around every window seal.
Oh my gosh.
They had eaten the whole sunroof liner from around the top of the sunroof. Anything on that truck that was rubber was gone and eaten. It was like $6,000 worth of damage. And then they did it to my client's house, and they ate like his hot tub cover, all his boat seats, his jet ski seats, that piece of it was like $35,000.
Wow.
And they're considered a pest. So on homeowners insurance, it's not covered because pests are excluded. Auto insurance, it was a comprehensive claim. So the vehicle was covered. But and I called this in, and they were like, you have got to be out of here. Not to mention the claw scratches and it's the craziest thing I've ever been a part of.
That is bizarre.
And
So how did the guy not lose his mind that lost all of his boat seats and jet ski
No
seats?
coverage? Didn't have any?
Fortunately, he was very angry.
Yeah.
And that's when the conversations start, which we get a lot. Why do I pay for insurance if it's not going to cover my claims, and it's such a scam? And, that's where those conversations begin. But insurance, it can't cover just anything. But I mean, my luck, 15 years, the craziest claim I've heard was one of mine. Like,
It's reminding me of like one of those, like the TV commercials, Mayhem or Geico or something.
yeah,
Something like crazy.
outside of that, just the destruction from Helene, it's just so massive that I know people who have been in this business for 50 years that have never seen anything like it.
So we've talked a lot about P&C, property and casualty coverage, and Insurance Service of Asheville. I'm pretty sure you do a lot more than just P&C.
So we're full service. We do surety, we do life, health, and employee benefits, group benefits for businesses, full personal lines department, all your toys. If it can be insured, we insure it. So there's nothing we can't write. We have over 275 carriers. So we're a big broker. The great thing about us and what's so special about Legacy Risk Solutions is we are a big broker without the big broker mentality. So we have all the carriers and I hear you guys talk a lot about scale so there's a lot of M&A going on in the insurance industry right now because you need scale to compete. You need scale to work with the carriers and provide your clients with the services that they need. But there's a lot of big brokers out there, and sometimes with scale, the mentality is bottom line is everything.
Lack of personalization.
So you get service centers and 1-800 numbers and all that. At Legacy, we partner with individual agencies like ISA, like ourselves, that don't want to do that. So we all have a mutual culture. It's people first. So none of our clients will ever have a 1-800 number, a service center, anything like that. And we all had to come together so we could, compete with the big brokers.
What would you recommend for a young person today, or maybe the better question is, what age should someone consider life insurance?
The younger, the better. I tell people all the time, grandparents and parents, the best gift you can get your kids is a life insurance policy because they're so cheap. And you can get a whole life policy immediately. So the younger, the better.
I'm continually amazed when I learn about people who did not have any life insurance whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And when you learn that is when you get the invitation to the fundraiser to help. And I think, gosh, how did this many people not have insurance? Like, do we scream that from the rooftops? We tell the grandparents?
I wish they taught more of this stuff in school. Like
Financial literacy.
I think
Yes.
schools should focus on personal finance, personal development, family planning, what does it look like? I know I drill it into my child, and I know I'm sure you guys do too. It's so important. People never think about life insurance until they're
You
too
need
old
it.
to afford it.
Yeah.
It's part of your life. Like, there's just things you must have. You need food. How do you want your family to survive after you? Because it happens. We all expire, unfortunately. But I think it's a necessity, like food, shelter, water, protection, future protection, financial planning.
It's also generational with the awareness that families have about discussing money. And I can remember as a child that money was just not a thing that you talked about a whole lot. It was private. And when it is private, it's also still something that you don't talk about very much. And Wendy Papasan has a quote, and I'm going to try it. And I think it goes something like, money is good for the good that money can do.
Nailed it.
The whole premise of that is we kind of misconstrue that money is bad, because if you don't have it, people that do have it, maybe you look at them as, oppressive, and they suppress you and your ability to be able to get to where you want to be. And a lot of that is just your intrinsic desire to want to learn how to do it. And I'm not saying that that's a culture thing per se. It's just the drive to want to learn to know how. And if people will spend time learning about money and how it can interface with some of the things that you just spoke of, that's planning. And family planning is a conversation that's open, and a failure to plan is a pretty bad way to have a legacy for your family.
Yeah, there's a whole concept with that, with money and finances, where I want to have a lot of money. Well, it doesn't sound very good if I say it that way. I want to be rich. I want to be wealthy. It doesn't sound good, right? But I do, because when I have money and I do things with it, like buy a vacation rental, it allows us to scale personally and financially. It allows us to spend time with friends and family. We have a place here locally where my aunt and uncle from Ohio, my aunt and uncle from California, my son from the other side of the state, all came to the house.
For a week.
And we had time together as a family, the same way we do at the Kelly's Island property that we own, that vacation rental. We don't own those rentals and these properties to just say that we own them. We're building wealth through real estate, and we're inviting friends and family, and that time and those memories, that's where it lies. That's the important part.
Yonder talks a lot about that with the guest experience and how empathy associated with people and planning to go on vacation. It's a big deal. They want to know, do you have stairs and how many steps to the dock? And all of those are things that people need to plan for, because it's spending time with their loved ones, their friends, and they want to have that experience. And so back to the very conversation of family planning, if you put yourself in a position where you do plan and you're talking about it openly, and it's a monetary subject, and maybe you don't understand it, then what are you probably going to do if you're planning? You're going to bring someone else in.
Yeah. So you'll sit down with clients and have this whole conversation about all of these facets.
And, we're just a piece to a puzzle. So any successful person, and success can mean a lot of different things. You mentioned being rich. Sometimes being wealthy isn't necessarily being rich, but people who are wealthy, they have a lot of what they care about. Do they have more time with their family? But no matter what it is, it requires a plan. I think it's Ben Franklin who said, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. So it's irresponsible not to. And in this day and age, you've got to have a plan. So we, all our clients and people I work with, and even in my networking, everybody should have a great attorney, a great real estate agent, a great risk advisor, insurance agent, and then a good CPA. And if you have those things and that network around you, you're set.
So this is our reminder to all of our listeners: review your insurance plan. Make sure that you have a life insurance policy, and if you do, do your children, do your grandchildren? What else can you do to contribute to that? And yeah, get all your ducks in a row, people.